Hi, this is Alex Fensky. I'm the lead agent for the Chicago Southland Homes team at Keller Williams Realty, and I'm here to give you your October housing market update. And I'm going to be covering the Northeastern Illinois multiple listing service as a whole. Um, Please remember that market data, especially right now, as things are shifting a lot, it's very specific to your hyper local area. So what I'm about to tell you is for all of Northeastern Illinois, and there's a lot of mini markets inside of that. So please reach out to us for specific information about your area if you are actually thinking about selling a home, buying a home, or investing in real estate. So let's talk about the numbers that came out here from September. We're going to cover supply, demand, pricing, mortgage rates, and what you might want to do about it. So that's our agenda for today. And I'll try to keep it under 7 minutes. That's my goal. So supply. There's two parts of supply: the number of new listings coming on the market and the number of homes that are available for sale. Both of those are down over 20% compared to September of last year, to the point where there's actually fewer new listings that came on the market in September compared to any September in the last 9 years. And it's also the lowest number of homes for sale in any September on record. So if you're hearing things about inventory skyrocketing, might be happening somewhere. Overall, in Northeastern Illinois for residential housing, that is not the case. Record low September in terms of the number of new listings and the number of homes available for sale. Now let's talk about demand. On the buy side, we measure demand by the number of pending contracts and the number of closed sales. Both are down about 22 to 23% compared to last year, which you'll notice is very similar to the amount that supply is down. So supply and demand both dropped down about the exact same amount. Demand is looking really similar to 2019, 2018. Those numbers they were really consistent for about 3 or 4 years prior to COVID, and we're right back to those numbers now. A couple things are different. Market times are a little bit longer than they were last year, but market times are actually half of what they were prior to COVID. And showings per listing are up about 50% compared to what they were prior to COVID. So mostly demand is the same as it was before COVID, but on some accounts it's actually a little bit stronger. When we take supply and demand both into account and we compare them, how many listings are available and how many listings are buyers buying, we come up with a metric called months of supply. And that says if there's all these homes on the market now, inventory, and buyers are buying this many each month, if nothing new came on the market, hypothetically, how many months would it take to gobble up that inventory? 6 months of supply is a balanced market where neither sellers nor buyers have an upper hand. Prices are typically flat, and that's a balanced market. More supply than that, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months of supply is all buyers market, and fewer than 6 months of supply is a seller's market. Month supply currently stands at 2.0, and that's the same as it was in August. And it's like 0.1 of a month higher than it was in July. So of all the things that have changed, the number of transactions being the biggest change, the relationship between the number of buyers and the number of sellers in the market really barely has changed at all. In fact, it's more of a seller's market than any September on record. That's the lower supply that we've seen in September, going back as far back as numbers go. So it's still a seller's market. Now, here's a huge caveat on this. I've been doing market analyses for people for single-family homes, condos, 2 units in the suburbs, in the city, in different neighborhoods and things. I will tell you that I have pulled, when I pull this property type in this area, I have seen numbers up into the 5s and in some cases above 6 months of supply. But I've also seen numbers that are 1 month of supply. So when I say that this varies a lot depending on what property type and what area, this is why you need a local real estate expert to be able to evaluate your property, because you can't just take all Northeastern Illinois. You can't just take the United States. There's no such thing. You got to look hyper-local. Prices have largely flattened out. They're still going up a bit, but it's slow. September prices were up 1.8% over last September, and a new record high we're using a 12-month trailing average. Overall, we're up 5.5% over the prior 12 months. So home values overall have gone up that much in the last year, but that number has stabilized. So they're not going up any faster. They're going up very slowly now, but they're still going up a little bit. Um, Mortgage rates. Today's 30-year fixed rate mortgage is averaging 6.69%. It's up quite a lot in the last 60 days, and that's the second major jump this year. First one was in March. Second one was these last 60 days here, where rates went up from just a hair over 5 to now we're approaching 7. And depending on the type of product, you may even see numbers on certain days that start with a 7. Here's what I want to point out. We've been spoiled for 20 years. Prior to 2002, 20 years ago, prior to that, there was never a year, there was never a month in a year, going all the way back to 1971 when we've got numbers, and I'm sure long before that, there was never a time in those 30 years that you could get a mortgage rate as low as 6.69%. You couldn't get one. That number didn't even come into existence until 2002. Then we had, mid 5s, mid 6s during the run up of the mid 2000s housing boom. And then we had the crash and the government having to play games to keep rates artificially low for a much longer time than anyone ever thought. So the last 20 years have absolutely spoiled us. But the 30 years prior, you couldn't get a rate like you can get today. So listen, I know you're not looking at moving from a 3 to a 7% when you move and going, hey, that's great. Just know that you've been a bit spoiled. And it's just the reality of it. There is not a glut of inventory in anywhere that I'm looking. And in most areas, for most property types, it is not a buyer's market. It's not even close to a buyer's market, though there are certain cases in which it's all the way back to balance now. So it's important that you ask and check with me about what the market conditions are like for your property. Sellers, listen, like I said, it's still mostly the seller's market, but there is not the sort of upward pressure on prices that you would expect, given that there's only 2 months of supply overall. That's what drives pricing changes, whether that's increases or decreases. And prices are going flat despite there being very low supply. So buyers are still having to compete for homes, but they're doing it more on other terms instead of more on price because of the rapidly increasing costs of borrowing. So as a seller, you got to price sharp. You can't price optimistically. We can't be rounding up, chunking on an extra 20 grand. We did that stuff for a couple of years. Can't do it anymore. And we got to actually stage homes again, right? We got to get back to cleaning it up, getting the landscaping touched up, moving some furniture out, right? We'll give you all these recommendations if you're selling a piece of property. We got to get back to that stuff. We can't be lazy anymore with staging and presentation. And we can't be lazy anymore with pricing either. On the buy side, you're going to have to compete based on either price or some of these other terms that are available because there is still competition. If you are nervous about getting stuck with a higher interest rate than maybe you could get in the future, please know that our preferred lenders are going to give you a float down option, which means you can lock a rate, but if you locked on a bad day and the rates drop again, you can lower your rate. But the lock means that you won't have to get a higher rate if rates go up before closing. And then if rates drop, let's say that a recession hits, everyone freaks out, and mortgage rates drop into the low 5s. 90 or 120 days from now. Well, guess what you can do? You can refinance. So we got a saying that we like to use. It's called marry the house, date the rate. You can change the interest rate. You can change the paint colors. You can change a lot of stuff about a home. You can't change when you bought it. You can't change the memories and experiences that you have in it during the time that you own the home. You can't change the location. So marry the house, date the rate. You can always refinance a rate later, and you can lock today with a float down option to capture any gains that could be realized prior to closing. So as always, contact me, Alex at ChicagoSouthlandHomes.com, or you can call us at the office, 708-808-0220. Send us a message here with your specifics, and we'll answer them. We'll help you out. Best luck out there. We look forward to working with you.